Hey everybody, it's the Doll Boy, and welcome back to a new reroot video. Today, I'm giving a makeover to my Frozen 2 Elsa doll. I got this doll secondhand and already showed her in my Disney Doll haul video, so if you want to see the basic details of this doll, make sure to check out that video. I really love the face sculpt and face paint on this doll. But my main problem is that hair, because that front was cut so blunt and that braid is super thin. She does not have a part line, and I would like to see her with a bit more of an icy color. This Elsa still has the original hairstyle as she came right out of the box, and the friend that I bought her from did not cut her hair, but this was all Disney's doing. Another one of my problems is that text on the bag, which I think is so offensive if you're giving the doll a backless dress. Finding the perfect hair color for this Elsa doll was a bit of a challenge, since I was really looking for that balance between blonde and silver. So I took a selection of whites, silvers, and light blondes from the Doll Planet hair to see which color I thought suited her best. I started out with this polar star that was basically a perfect match to the original hair, just slightly lighter, but for me, rooting her in only that shade would be slightly too yellow for my liking. So if I would use this color, I'm definitely gonna mix it up with another shade. This Vesper is a very gray color, but to me, it has too much of a purple tint to it, where Smoke is a much warmer gray. And then I had First Snow, that's very much a pure white, that's also a lot less shiny than that Polar Star. And I also have this really cool color that's called Two-Tone Ashwood Blend, that I thought was such a beautiful color that goes absolutely perfect in between that ash blonde and silver tone, but it's just too dark for my liking. So I decided to mix that shade with the First Snow to make a lighter version of this color. That for me still was a little too warm, so I'm gonna add in a little bit of that Polar Star for dimension, some Smoke to make it a little more gray toned, and a lot of white to lighten it up even more. And that created this beautiful dimension base color that I can use for the hairline and parts, while also adding some of that pure Polar Star as highlights. After taking the original hair down, you can see that there's so much of that short hair in there, and the top and back are pretty thinly rooted. This absolutely makes sense with that braid styled into place, but for me, I would prefer to have a doll with nicely voluminous hair that has a slightly thicker braid, but that also looks beautiful with her hair down. So now without any hesitations, I simply chop all that hair off. And honestly, to me, that already looked so much better. With all the hair chopped off, I switch her into a simple outfit that I don't mind getting wet, and then I dip the head in a bowl of boiling water to soften up the plastic of the head. This makes it much easier to remove that head from the body, but I did run into a similar problem that I had with my limited edition Ariel doll, where that neck bag held the head in place so well. This time I was a little more prepared, so I knew that my forceps pliers could help if I just use it to get that neck to slide over that arrow-shaped neck bag. And now, when the head's finally removed, I'm taking my forceps pliers and I start scraping the inside of the head, while being super careful for the eyelashes. Because if you accidentally scrape the front of the face, you might pull those out as well, and I really want to avoid that from happening. Scraping the inside of the head pulls all those leftover hairs to the inside, to ensure that in the next step, you can open your forceps pliers and pull all that hair fluff out of the head. Looking at the original rooting pattern, those short hairs in the front were rooted so densely that I was super afraid that if I'd fill all of those, the hair would become way too thick in the front. And I was also pretty afraid of that plastic ripping if I wouldn't be too careful. That's why I took some liquid fusion and preventively spread that out on those super dense holes right behind the hairline. I am being very careful in this step not to touch the face because this glue does dry glossy. What liquid fusion does is really fill up those holes and kind of create a second layer of plastic, which makes the head a little sturdier and safer to reroot. Off camera, I added a second and third layer of glue as well, letting each layer dry in between. Once that was all dry, I looked at several reference pictures of Elsa in Frozen 2 to decide where I wanted that part line to go. For me, I really wanted Elsa to have an offside part, going in like this half circle shape, where it goes into a deeper side part first, and then moves back to a middle part. I'm hoping this will really create that swoop effect with more volume on one side, like she has in the movie. To make it a little easier for myself, I am using existing holes as a guide, so I can just add some holes in between those that I will fill up for a part. I'm dipping the head in warm water to make the plastic a little softer and easier to poke the holes in. And to make the actual new holes, I'm using my reroot tool with the pointy end of the needle sticking out. And then I'm simply following the guide that I drew on the head, push in my tool to create new holes that will make the part line later. To prepare for the actual reroot, I lay down some strands on my table in that color blend that I mixed on the left side and some strands of that polar star on the right. This way I can alternate my mix and the polar star to mix in some brighter highlights in the hairline as well. I made all these strands extremely thin because that hairline is the most fine and delicate hairline that I've seen on a limited edition doll so far. In this video, I will be using my reroot tool from the Doll Planet here once again with a needle that has that eye cut open. Then I'm taking one of those super thin strands of hair and wrap it around my finger twice so I can pull it up with my reroot tool and gently pull on the ends to create a knot that you can push into one of the holes on the doll's head. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that I always like to start with the hairline and part line first, because for me those are the trickiest areas, and I want to have those ready as soon as I can, because the steps after that for me are a lot more relaxed. I start at the back hairline so I can warm up a little bit and be a well-oiled machine once I reach that front hairline. Seeing that hairline come together is always so satisfying to me. And for Elsa, I was especially nervous with those super small holes in the front hairline that I was even happier about finishing this hairline. After that, I'm gonna go in for the part line, and since I've created those holes, they are also pretty small and delicate. To make sure I handle this very carefully, I'm filling up this part line in several phases. For the first time filling the part line, I'm using my thin sections, because that's a lot more gentle on those holes. I was slightly struggling to even get those small sections in, so to help me out a bit, I clamped a regular needle in my forceps pliers that I would push into the hole in the part line as I was picking up the strand with my reroot tool. This extra step made it much easier for me to root that part line without breaking more reroot needles than necessary. Once all the holes of that part line were filled with that first strand of hair, the second strand went in a lot easier. I actually filled in that full part line with a second strand. And after doing that, it was very clear for me to see which specific holes needed a little more coverage, and I even added a third strand on those spots. After that, I dragged the end of my point comb through the part line to reveal the beautiful result. With those hard parts out of the way, it was finally time to simply fill in the rest of the head. For the inside of the head, I'm also using that color blend that I created for the part line and hairline, but I'm also adding in several rows of those different colors by themselves, because this will create a lot of additional depth and dimension when styling the hair. And I always really like how natural that will look. Then once all the hair is attached to the head, I braid it out of the way and take my Fabri-Tac glue to add to the inside of the head. This step makes sure all those little knots that you created during the reroot are secured in place to keep the hair in the head when you style the hair later. I add a generous amount of glue and then spread that out evenly with a Q-tip by swirling that on the inside of the head, and then leave it to dry for at least 12 hours. While the glue was drying, I wanted to see if I could tackle that text on the back, because I really want to have a clean look when she's wearing that backless dress. I went in with some pure acetone and a Q-tip to carefully remove it, but I quickly noticed that the plastic of her back started melting away, giving it this pretty rough texture. I did try it on another spot as well, wiping it away as fast as possible, but it still had the same effect. I also tried the same technique with nail polish remover, because that has a lot less acetone in it, but as you can see, the text simply doesn't come off as well with this approach. Then I personally made the decision that I'd rather have Elsa with a slightly melted back than that stupid text showing, so I altered my technique a little bit to get the least ugly results, and worked in small sections, wiping away the acetone as soon as I could, which left it pretty smooth and left me with a result I was actually pretty happy with. This definitely doesn't give perfect results on these bodies, so for example, I don't think I would do this for my live action Ariel doll that has that green band on the front and back of her belly, but for Elsa's back that will almost never show up. I think this still looks better than that text. Then once the glue is dry, it's finally time to put Elsa back on her body, which already looked so cool with this braid. I did, however, want to give the hair a quick wash as well, so I undid the braid, brushed out the hair very well, and dipped the top of the head in boiling water to really set that part in place. After playing with the full length of Elsa's hair for a little while, I did want to cut quite a bit of length off and give her a lot of layers, inspired by Elsa's Fifth Spirit look and her Disney Parks version as well, where the layers are a lot softer than that super choppy cut that this doll had originally. For both the base length and the layer length, I am keeping it a little longer than I might want, because I also want to add some curl to the hair, which is gonna shrink it down, and I'd rather have to cut this doll's hair again than regret the length I cut it to the first time around. So for the base length, I decided to keep it a little longer than the top of her boots. And for the layers, I kept that shortest length around her shoulders. Since I was going for that 5th spirit look, I also wanted to add some curlers to the hair. That actually made the hair a lot curlier than I was hoping for. After taking out all those curlers and separating each section into 2, I decided to leave the hair alone for a couple of hours until the curls dropped a bit, and then I took Elsa out for her well-deserved photo shoot. I really hope you liked this video and Elsa's new look. If you did, make sure to leave a comment down below which part of this makeover you liked most. Then also let me know which Disney princess you think deserves a makeover next, and subscribe to my channel to make sure you won't miss it. If you want to see more looks that I create on Elsa, make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok as well, @TheDollBoy. See you next time!